Hi, my name is Michael Arroyo. I'm one of the lead developers for the BluSapphire cybersecurity platform. I'm also the creator and lead developer for BluGenie. BluGenie is a PowerShell-driven framework for threat hunting, data analysis, and remote administration. Let's check out some of the functions. Okay, so in this session we're going to run our first command interactively. We're going to see the data on the local host. We're also going to run that same command on a remote machine, and we're going to review that reporting data. So let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to use one of the quick and fast commandlets for BluGenie just to show the overall framework and how it processes. All of the other commandlets have the same framework template. So in this instance, we're actually going to run get BG system info. Now, by default, if you hit return, all data is returned as a hash table. We're going to see that it is processing data. It returns as a hash. Now, if you did not save that as a variable and it was sent to the foreground as the return and you didn't capture that data, there's actually a variable that's set up in the BluGenie console called last result. So last result now actually is holding on to that data. So if you just wanted to view that or you wanted to capture that into memory, you can. So for instance, we were just pulling that information and we noticed that we didn't capture it into a variable. We didn't output it to anything, so by default it was the hash table. So here we're actually going to do a last result, and we're going to convert that to JSON. And here we'll just do a depth 5, and you can see that we have a full return of all the information that was captured. And so with that commandlet, we have the system info, and then the subcategories, which was PowerShell info, disk info, system start time, memory info, so on and so forth. Okay, so by default, there's also other options to any of the commandlets, the BluGenie commandlets. There's several built-in output formats. So if you do not want to type in convert to JSON, there's actually a parameter that's already set up for you, and that's called unescaped JSON. So this will actually show that information as well. All the unescaped characters will be removed. So paths, backslashes, everything like that is actually going to be more of a Windows view or Windows format. So super clean and right to the foreground without actually having to send to any other commandlets. Okay, so now that we ran the command and we verified that it has some of the information that we're looking for, now we're going to actually run that command on a remote system. So the way to do that is actually adding commands and adding systems to the settings section. You can either import a JSON, which we'll do that at some other time, but right now we're actually going to walk you through the console commands for that. So commands, C-O-M-M-A-N-D-S, will actually load anything for the command section of settings. So here, let's actually go into settings to show you what that looks like. So you have 3 sections to run code. Command section, which runs first. Parallels, which runs second. And any command in the parallels list will run at the same time. And then post. Post is more of a cleanup. So it happens last before the job returns, finishes and returns. So with that said, we're actually going to run commands, and there's a handful of options. So you can actually add, you can remove items, so on and so forth. But here we're actually going to add. So we're going to add, we're going to run that same command that we did earlier. This is going to get BG system info. We're going to hit enter. You can see that that command was added. If you actually run commands without any data in there, without anything at the end, it will actually identify, it will verify any information in the command section. So there is a command that was there. It's in the index 1. It's on BG system info rather. And if you look under settings, you can see that the option has been applied. So, and if you do that same thing with anything else, so if you want to add to the parallel section, it's parallel commands, same thing, add, and you can do another BG get system info, and we'll do the same thing for post. So post commands, by default, add is the default parameter, so you don't necessarily need to hit add or type in hyphen add. So we will do that here, BG, and you can, there's tons of other commands, but here we'll do system info again as well. And if you look at settings, you'll notice now that they're in the command section, the parallel command section, and the post section. So we're actually going to remove the parallel and the commands. So for that, you can actually just type in parallel commands hyphen remove. You can specify the index or the command itself. So if you said remove and then the command get BG system info for this instance, it would remove it. You can actually do a remove index and remove the item based on its index. So we know that in parallel commands, index 1 is the item that we want to remove. That removed it. And then for post, we'll actually do the same thing. This time we'll actually say remove all. So that's another option. So you don't have to type in the command. You don't have to type in what index. You can just say I want all items in that removed. And here we'll go into settings again to verify. And you can see that parallel commands was emptied out. Post commands was emptied out. And the only command left is get BG system info in the command section. So now we want to run systems. So here we're actually going to run systems, and again this is an add or just the primary parameter, and you can start adding computer names in an array. So here we're going to add 4 computer names. So our first one is Windows 7 SP1001. We'll do the same thing, Windows 7 SP1002. We'll do the same thing for Windows 10. Windows 10 001, Windows 10 002. Hit enter, you can see all 4 computers were added. If we run the settings command, you can see in the systems settings, you'll see 4 computers, and now the command that they're going to run is get BG system info. So by default, there's a command you want to verify where these log files are going, and for that instance, we actually have a open transdir. Show your transcript directory. Here you're going to see all the transcripts for every time that we ran BluGenie. A transcript was created. In one of the videos, we ran a debug, and it shows our debug. But in here, you're actually going to see job information. So we did not put in a job ID. Where is it? So right here. We did not put in a job ID, so by default it's a timestamp. So we're just going to run this job, and I will show you that directory in 1 second. So here we can actually just type in invoke process, which is the default command alias, or invoke BG process, which is the BG alias, or the quickest alias is run. So there's several ways to actually execute this. We're going to use run in this instance. So we're going to hit run. You can see that it's doing a thread count of 50 computers at the same time. Timeout is 120 minutes. Maximum queue is 0. PID for process ID, how much memory it's allocated, the log file. And here we can see that it's creating new run spaces for each one of these nodes. So adding Windows 7 SP1, SP2, or SP1001, Windows 7 SP1002, Windows 10 01, Windows 10 02. It says there was 4 run spaces created. It actually ran on 2 machines already. There we go. So all 4 machines came back. They all completed with no errors. It closed our run space pool. The pool again had 50 threads per count. Completed the job in this time, so you can see the start and end. And now if we actually open, if we run open logder, you could see it took us right to the transcript folder and then the job folder. So in our previous folder, you could see that we were in the transcripts. It created a new folder. There is our timestamp, and then underneath that we have our information. So we have our trans ID log. So this log is an identifier on how to on which transaction or which transcripts rather was the parent transcripts capturing all of the other data. So if you're ever looking for more debug information for that job, you can capture it there. Here we have a CSV file. This CSV file shows us all of the jobs that ran, the batch processing, how long they took. And then here we have 2 folders. One is an in progress. So if you ever wanted to see what machines were still running and you did not have console access, you can actually go into the in progress folder, and a text ID or a text identifier would be here. So it would be the name.json. It would have 0 KB as long as it's in this folder. The action to the remote machine is still processing and the returned data has not happened yet. Once the data is returned, then the file is moved over to completed, and then it is appended. And so you can see all of these have roughly 6K, or they do have 6K KB in size. So we'll grab the first machine. We'll run this. This is a JSON file. It is compressed, so you need a JSON beautifier or something to change the format so it's more readable. So in Notepad++, we actually have a plugin called JSON Viewer, and we'll actually format the JSON so now it's readable. And so you can see, here's our job ID, there's our job identifier. WinRM was enabled. It's grabbing these identifiers from the remote machine, host name, so on and so forth. The WSMan config on the remote box. Original Win broker, so this is WinRM. It will also process over WMI if WinRM is not enabled, and it will try to enable WinRM over WMI. But you can tell if there was a problem with WMI with this original connection broker, because it tells you how it connected in the first place, how many times it took to verify that information. And then it just goes through basic status information. So IP address, time to live, how many hops, what operating system it was. And this is all IP related. This is not OS specific, so it has not really touched the OS for that info. Here we have the parameters, PS version that was on the machine. So we could see that this version is Posh 2, even though our machine we're running Posh 5.1. So BluGenie is compatible with Posh 2.0 and up. And then here is the job information from the remote box itself. So again, you have the host name, computer name, and then the command. So the command we ran was get BluGenie system info, the return information, the system identifier or the commandlet identifier, which is the system info, and then each category underneath that. So you have your PowerShell. PowerShell instance is only 2.0 on this machine. You have your disk info, memory, 4 gigs of memory, elapsed time and how long it took, 19 seconds. So you can see that this is really, really fast. Remote connection, grabbed all its data, reported back in a compressed JSON, and it's left behind for data consumption. And that is for every machine. So again, we'll grab Windows 10 in this manner. For this test, we go into the plugins again, JSON viewer format JSON. And for this instance, you can tell we should have a PowerShell version of both 2.0 and 5.1. And again, all the disk info, .NET info, logged in users for that. And so that's the reporting data on the remote machine. So all the commands that you pipe through, you're going to get this remote JSON, and you'll be able to see and identify all the information from those remote machines through these log files. Okay, thank you for joining me for this session. Join me for another session where we go into further detail of BluGenie. Thank you.